Blog Talk Radio.
Well, welcome to another edition of Blog Talk Radio. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with the esteemed Dr. Eric Lopkin. We have Keith Reynolds joining us. There are some barriers to that, but hopefully he'll be joining us soon. And Dr. Lopkin, as always, you had a really profound observation before you went on air. Maybe you can discuss that.
Yeah, we were talking about the fact that, President Eisenhower, when he left office, warned against the military-industrial complex. And the fact of the matter is now it's not the military-industrial complex we have to worry about. It's the media-political complex.
And I would agree with that.
The Democratic Party's been trying to steal this election for 4 years already.
And they may have accomplished that. There's no question about that. The Biden-Hunter situation, if that was Donald Trump and Don Jr., I think he might have to resign.
Yeah, if the same thing had happened with Donald Trump and Donald Trump Jr., the media would have been all over it. They would have been calling for his resignation. It isn't like they didn't impeach him already over trumped-up charges, no pun intended. But because it's Biden, they're letting it go.
I think it's very scary. You let the chips fall as they will, but it's very scary to me that you have a media that actually, the GDP went up 33%. We can parse that, whatever. Never reported on CNN and other media. And then the whole situation with Hunter. I mean, really? I mean, Americans are voting without all the information.
Ridiculous. And
I mean,
that's something else. Talking about not having the information, it absolutely boggles my mind that they allowed voting to start before the first debate.
Well, I think it really is the military-industrial media complex. I believe that Trump said something, his followers did, whatever you want to say, to swamp, but it's true. It's been a coup attempt for 4 years because he's a nationalist, and what's really driving it is the global corporate interests that don't really care about America, but care about their own vested interests. I really believe that's true. I honestly do.
I think that's part of it. I think
it's a lot of it.
I mean, let's face it. Most people, not everybody, but most people tend to follow the political party that their parents followed. And very few people actually question it. As they get older, they might switch, but you see very little of it. And I think it's essentially brainwashing. You are hit with this over and over again. And it's absolutely ridiculous. And, we talked about the echo chamber years ago. And now it's just so bad because the echo chamber, the mass media, is in the Democrats' pocket. So you don't hear that Trump did an historic 4 peace treaties with the Middle East. You don't hear that the economy is actually recovering faster than expected.
Okay, but that's dangerous. Let's talk about the Middle East. And you have certain constituencies, the African American and the Jewish, which have been You have Biden. we can't even go that. That's not going to be very pro-Israel on a good day. Trump has been the most pro-Israeli president more than Reagan. What happens? Why does that happen?
I don't have a good answer. I know one person. It absolutely boggles my mind. He suffers from a massive case of Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah.
Now, he works in the insurance agent. He works in the insurance industry. Under Biden's health care plan, the insurance industry is going to suffer like you wouldn't believe. He's Jewish.
Like you believe.
Trump has been amazing for Israel. It's like, I do not understand how he is completely voting against his own interests. And he's not alone. There are so many people that are so ignorant about what's going on that they are voting against what's good for them. And what kills me is, there are Biden ads airing now that are 100% lies, and the media doesn't say a word. They're so far in the Democrats' pocket, they are letting them spread lies all over, not saying a word. If Donald Trump makes a gaffe, every network covers it.
Yeah, no, I would agree 100%. I mean, but what does that do for our democracy? I mean, I have people that were Trumpers 4 years ago now have been indoctrinated with CNN, and they think he's done everything from orchestrate the Manson murders to who knows. I mean, it's not good for this democracy. And Trump could lose, and his constituencies, African Americans that have never done better, never. Jewish voters, they all have a chance to lose if Trump in fact does lose. But yet, I don't get it. I don't understand it. And I don't understand politicians like Blumenthal that you would think would have the information, but yet are against him.
Well, Blumenthal doesn't care. All Blumenthal wants is to keep his job. He doesn't give a damn. And quite frankly, he would rather support Biden because under Trump, he's at a dead end in his career. If the Democrats take the White House, he's got a good chance of being the Attorney General.
Yeah, but not to get too out of control, but you're talking about your entire legacy, your entire heritage. You're going to vote against that for your own special interest?
They've done it for years. I mean, and this is not unique to the Democrats. Republicans do it too. They put their immediate needs and their career goals in front of everything, including their constituents.
Well, I do think that if Biden gets in, Israel has got some huge problems. And I think Jewish Americans that vote against Trump, they may have complete buyer's remorse on a good day.
Well, I mean, I think it's going to be horrible for everybody, if Biden wins. But I don't think Israel is going to have the problems you think they will because those 4 peace treaties are already in place. So
yeah, but you're going to have
they're going to lose those treaties.
But you're going to have an empowered Iran because Biden is so it's just amazing. I mean, I have friends that have called me that have said, like, how does this happen? You have someone that's obviously clearly suffering from dementia, but
honestly, I think that's why
really
the Democrats pushed him. I think that's why the Democrats pushed him. They knew Kamala Harris stood no chance of winning. She didn't even make it to the early primaries. But you've heard Nancy Pelosi talk about using the 25th Amendment.
Yes.
They can put Biden in, go, oh, you know what? He's mentally unfit. We have to remove him. And they put Kamala Harris in place. because they can't use the 25th Amendment against Trump. Everybody says, oh, they're talking about using it against Trump. They can't, because to use the 25th Amendment against Trump, you have to have a willing vice president. And Pence has already said he is not going to play ball with that. So if they're planning anything with the 25th Amendment, it's against Biden. And the fact that they brought that up before he was ever elected means they know he's incapacitated. They're trying to put Harris in without the voters having a say.
God, I mean, how scared? That's a banana republic situation, Dr. Lopkin. I mean,
it is
clearly Biden. I mean, his hardest question was vanilla or chocolate ice cream. I mean, that's like insane. I mean, he can't put together. And by the way, shame on Trump on the first debate. He screwed that up. He screwed it up.
Yes, he did.
And he loses, it's because of the first debate.
Well, not just the first debate, but to be perfectly honest, the Democrats could not have pulled this off if Trump hadn't been so uncontrollable. If he had come across more presidential, if he controlled his temper and stayed on script, this wouldn't be happening. Trump would be a lock for re-election. He did not do that. So, I mean,
I actually think it's the bigger issue. The bigger issue was the coronavirus. Initially, he started these briefings. He had his S together, so to speak, and then it unraveled, and I think that was his undoing. He couldn't keep it together. Yeah, the tweets, all that, I get it. But it was the coronavirus updates that...
Well, no, he stopped the updates because the media was not paying attention. They were going after him day in, day out. There was no reason for him to put up with that kind of response. But what kills me is they go, I mean, if you listen to Biden talking about coronavirus, he talks about how, at the beginning, Trump said it was no big deal, and look what happened. Of course, the media has downplayed the fact that Nancy Pelosi was in San Francisco in Chinatown telling everybody to go out and go to all these places and don't worry about coronavirus. So this was not a Trump problem. This was a problem that neither side knew what was going to happen. Oh, what a shock. They didn't have a crystal ball. Right, that's my point. But
look at Europe.
To put
that was giving accolades for how they handled it. And if Trump, they're spiking. It's a virus. It's a highly communicable virus. What is the answer, Dr. Lopkin? There is no answer. What are you going to do?
The answer is let the scientists find a vaccine, find a treatment. We've already got one treatment that's been approved. There's more in the pipeline. Until that happens, there's nothing that's going to stop coronavirus. France just locked down the entire country again. Okay, now, the Democrats have made a big deal of this, that Trump hasn't forced lockdowns, and that's the big problem. But you cannot force a lockdown here. And the reason is very simple. Americans are not Europeans. There was a great conversation by Craig Ferguson and Stephen Fry a number of years ago. Again, both Europeans, where they were discussing the difference between Europe and America. And the difference is the people who are in Europe basically are the descendants or the people that decided, you know what, good is good enough, I'm not going to take a chance. The people in America are the people from around the world who said, no, I'm going to take the chance, there's something better out there, and I'm going to make that happen for us.
But
and you cannot treat the population the same way.
But isn't liberalism totally 180 degrees against that? They want conformity.
Liberalism wants conformity. They want government control. And actually, I will say more about this in a moment, but we have to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
To reach the next level, you need to operate at peak performance. The key to this is mastering the 7 elements of success. Learn how to master mindset, focus, operations, communications, innovation, evaluation metrics, and continuous improvement. Get the Biznetics Way at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, and bookstores near you.
And we're back. And remember, if you want to be part of the conversation, you can call in at 563-999-3693. We want to hear what you think. So it's 563-999-3693.
We definitely want to hear what you think.
3693.
Well,
so that's absolutely right that liberalism is against what essentially is the core of the American identity.
Then why are so many people for? Yeah, but Dr. Lopkin, why are so many people for what American ideals are against? I mean, you look at millennials; they're on board with liberalism, which is, and maybe even communism. Look at Bernie.
Yeah, I mean, it blows my mind how far to the left they've gone. And I think in terms of millennials, they grew up under Obama. They saw what was going on and thought, well, you know what? We can't survive this on our own. We need government help.
No question.
And that's basically the core of it.
Yes, I think they grew up under Obama. That was a more powerful figure than anyone could ever imagine, in terms of changing the ideology of America. But it was also the perfect situation where there was an economic downturn. There was a depression. And many millennials who graduated college and had no job, things change. It's not 1988. I mean, it was a tough time.
It was. And, our guest has arrived, so let's bring him into the conversation.
Hey, how are you?
Keith Reynolds, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for joining us on Carnivore Radio. And as I talked about, and we talked about on air, that we want to envision the world, America, let's not get too grandiose, but America in a Biden world. And let's talk about you're a business person, you're an entrepreneur. How do you see it as an entrepreneur, the Biden presidency?
Well,
before we enter that, how did you see the Trump presidency? I'm not talking about, anything else but just business.
Well, I thought he did a fine job continuing the economic growth coming out of the 2008 recession, and I was not happy with the tax plan. I didn't see a huge amount of upside to it as a small business person and as, a family man. And I think, we basically borrowed a lot of money to give people tax cuts. And I think that would have eventually bitten.
Hold on, Mr. Reynolds. I would agree with you 100%. As a conservative economic person, liberal on the social side, but in terms of economics, I'm pretty conservative. I believe that it was $1 trillion blown on 2 quarters of fictitious growth.
Exactly.
That's what I really do.
And a middle class, upper middle class business owner didn't see that much benefit. The benefit that we did see had been going on for many years, coming out of, if you look at any trend line as far as, income and wealth creation and stock market performance, I mean, that was a pretty steady pace. It wasn't like Trump became president and my life became, better. It was a long-term trend and it was going well, and now we're dealing with a disruption, a black swan event in the economy. And I think there's a lot of, I think government and the economy are kind of separating from having to operate on the same oscillating cycle too. I think look at the comeback that we've made. It'll be interesting to see as the stimulus money runs out, does the economy start to fall, or can they manage it with monetary policy? It'll be interesting to see. But
before we throw it out to Dr. Lopkin, let's talk about monetary policy and our deficit. Being older than both of you, I remember when Jimmy Carter ran against, or I should say the reverse, that Ronald Reagan ran against Jimmy Carter. And do you know what the deficit was? I don't know, close to 1980, whatever. It was $500 billion. Now we're talking about money that it's like funny money. It has
we're 30 trillion. We're on our way.
What's that?
30 trillion we're on our way to.
Yeah, I mean, that's like having someone that makes, I don't know, $80,000 and has $1 million on their credit card. Dr. Lopkin.
Yeah, in terms of, I certainly enjoyed the tax cut because I saw financial benefit from it. But in terms of a policy, I was actually much more in favor of what Paul Ryan was trying to push through, which was actually much less of a tax cut and more of a simplification. They kept saying, as an example, that you would be able to fill out the tax form. It would be no bigger than an index card. That I was a big proponent of. And unfortunately, that's not what we got.
Yeah, but Dr. Lopkin, both of you, it's been going on for years. There's got to be a reason why that hasn't happened. That has been going on forever in terms of what we're just talking about. And in fact, I saw this show. It's a comedy show called Adam Ruins Everything, and he says the whole thing about file, not for business, for a person. They already know what your tax return should look like. The whole thing, according to him, was about tax preparers or whatever. Why shouldn't it be on an index card?
There's no reason.
There's no reason. It's institutional inertia.
Actually, I disagree with that. I don't think it's inertia. I think they do it on purpose. Because if you simplify the tax form so that it's a simple index card, the government has to fire a whole bunch of IRS agents because they don't need them to go through these anymore. You have a bunch of tax preparers that go out of business because they're not needed anymore. And I believe that's the reason that they keep it as complicated as they do.
And
actually, that's what I would define as institutional inertia. You just defined what I get. I labeled it. You defined it.
No, that's exactly what Adam Ruins Everything said, that it's lobbyists that's got the H&R Block, and you can name all the others. That it's exactly what you said, gentlemen. That's what it is.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
but I would rather, as a taxpayer, I would rather fill out a complicated form and pay somebody $1,000 to do it if I had $20,000 in my pocket. But I didn't get $20,000 in my pocket in this tax cut. And a lot of people who make a lot more money than I think it was like 80-90% of the value of the tax cut went to the top 10% of people, of earners in the country.
No, that's absolutely wrong. No, that's absolutely wrong. Because just the simple matter that they doubled the standard deduction and removed a lot of itemized deductions, that shifted it. The people that got the most benefit because of that doubled deduction was the lower class, the lower middle class. These are folks that never itemized deductions. They immediately got more tax back.
Yeah, but the real point,
but relative to their income, when you look at the amount of total wealth transferred, the total wealth transfer went to the top 10%.
Yeah,
as a percent of that individual's tax, they got something, but the lion's share of the money was a wealth transfer to the top 10% of earners.
The real question, gentlemen, is
going to be that way.
I got you, but isn't the real question that the trajectory was going upward? Was the tax cut really warranted in terms of $1 trillion in deficit?
Well, yeah, it depends on how you look at it. I mean, I honestly, I can't say it was or it wasn't, but there were add-on benefits. Like Kevin just said, businesses got a big share of the tax cut. Well, you also saw businesses raise salaries at a higher rate than they've done in the past 30 years because they had that extra money. So the fact that salaries went up is not completely because of the tax cut, but it was a factor.
I also think a lot of it came was redeployed as stock buybacks. I don't have the numbers, but I have seen that, yes, there were salaries increased, but there was a lot of it was also
yes, there were a lot of stock buybacks. I'm not going to deny that it did benefit stockholders. And, that's something else. It drives me up the wall that students in, high school definitely, but even earlier, are not taught about investing. Now, the fact of the matter is, they make all of these claims that, only the top people have stock. No, if you're part of a union, your pension is in the stock market. If you have a 401k, an IRA, any kind of retirement plan, you have stock, so you benefited from this.
Mm-hmm. That is true, but you don't see it in your paycheck. It's not a bread. You see it in your paycheck eventually, right, in your pension, but we don't give pensions anymore. Everything's 401ks and determined retirement plans. Yeah.
All right.
So no, and I agree with you about economic literacy, 100%.
Yes, I think we need a lot more of that.
We need to bring back economic literacy. We need to bring back simple civics. I am amazed at the number of people I've spoken to in the last several weeks that do not know how the Supreme Court works. Yeah. It is absolutely ridiculous.
Well, any final thoughts, Mr. Reynolds? The esteemed Mr. Reynolds. How do you
in the Biden presidency? To your original question, I think we're going to see some taxes raised, and because $30 trillion is not sustainable. We have a black swan event, and everyone's going to have to pay, and it'll be very interesting to see how that shakes out.
And something, I agree that $30 trillion is not sustainable. Dr. Lopkin, final thought.
Yeah, no, the current deficit is not sustainable. Kevin's absolutely right. There will be a tax hike. This isn't a prediction. Biden has said it. So we know that's going to happen. You've been listening to Carnivore Radio at Blog Talk Radio. We're live Fridays at 4 at blogtalkradio.com/Carnivore Radio. And you can catch the replay as well as the Carnivore Bites podcast every week on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and wherever you find podcasts. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds.
That was awesome, guys. I look forward to doing it again. Thank you.
Awesome. You're the best. Take care.